Have you ever woken in the middle of the night, body completely unable to move, yet consciousness utterly clear? Folk tradition calls it ghost pressing on the bed. Medicine calls it sleep paralysis. Most people experience it once or twice, wake in a cold sweat, forget by morning. But Xiao Wen's sleep paralysis was different, because when she broke free, she saw something she shouldn't have seen. 10 years ago. Xiao Wen, in her 20s, worked as a designer in Hohhot, pleasant looking, with a quiet, understated beauty, round face, big eyes, shallow dimples when she smiled. Her friends set her up with a guy, 178 cm, broad-shouldered, gentle voice, state-owned enterprise. After a few dates, she felt this was someone she could rely on her whole life. That autumn weekend, they drove out to the grasslands. The sky stretched high and deep blue. On the way back, darkness had fallen, and it started raining. They couldn't make it home, so he pulled into a hotel by the roadside. An old 3-star, the kind with dim lobby lights and a faint musty smell in the corridors. He went to the front desk alone. She sat in the lobby. A few minutes later, he returned with a keycard. Room 407, 4th floor. They went upstairs. She noticed he seemed tense. Entering the room, he scanned every corner, behind the curtains, under the bed, inside the closet, as if checking for something. She thought he was just being thorough after hearing about hidden cameras in hotels. They had sex. Afterward, he fell into a deep sleep. She lay beside him, about to drift off, when it happened. Sleep paralysis. Her body was pinned to the mattress as if by an invisible mountain. She could see the curtain gap, morning sunlight casting a bright golden line on the carpet, dust particles drifting slowly in the beam. She focused all her willpower on her right hand, commanding it to lift, over and over. Sweat beaded on her forehead. First her fingers twitched, then her wrist, then her entire arm. With a violent jerk, she snapped out of it, gasping, blanket soaked in sweat. She rolled over to find a more comfortable position, and her face turned toward the spot where he'd lain. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught something. On the bed, right beside her waist, a kneeling woman. Long hair, neat fringe, pale blue nightgown. Her face was indistinct, as if veiled by thin gauze, but Xiao Wen could feel her staring directly at her, on her knees, body slightly forward. That posture, as if she'd been kneeling there, watching them, for a very, very long time. Xiao Wen didn't scream, her throat locked completely, her eyes fixed on that figure, no blinking, no breathing. And then, the figure slowly faded, like ink dissolving in water, dispersing from the edges inward until the spot was empty. Xiao Wen scrambled out of bed. The guy woke, saw her face, and asked what was wrong. She said, "The bed. There was a person just now." "How could there be a person? You must have been dreaming." He pulled back the blanket to show her. "Nothing. I wasn't dreaming. Sleep paralysis. When I broke free, I saw her." After a moment's hesitation, the guy said, "Probably an illusion from sleep paralysis. Medical phenomenon." She wanted to believe him. They checked out. At the door, a male employee and a cleaning lady were working. When they heard room 407, both stopped. The male employee stared at Xiao Wen for 2 full seconds. "You stayed in this room? 407? Yes, is there a problem?" The cleaning lady gave Xiao Wen a shocked look, the kind of astonishment of seeing something that shouldn't be seen. The two exchanged a glance. The male employee's mouth moved, but the cleaning lady nudged him with her elbow. He forced a stiff smile. "Nothing. We'll check the room now." Xiao Wen's unease deepened, but she left. That evening at home, she finally called the guy. "I want to ask you something. That hotel, room 407, is there something wrong with it?" The other end went silent, then the noise of him walking somewhere quieter. His voice, when it returned, was barely above a whisper. "Don't lie to me. You really saw a woman?" She described her. Long hair, neat fringe, pale blue nightgown. Silence, not thinking silence, the silence of someone whose throat had been seized. Then a trembling exhale, like a drowning man surfacing. That's my ex-girlfriend. 5 years ago, the guy had dated a girl. She wanted marriage. He kept stalling. They argued, broke up. The girl, unable to accept it, went to that hotel, the one where they'd stayed together, and slit her wrists in room 407, wearing that pale blue nightgown, the one he said he liked best. What time did you see her? About 7 in the morning. She died at 7:12 a.m. Xiao Wen's world tilted. From the next day, strange things began happening. Walking home at dusk through a quiet neighborhood, she glanced under a parked sedan. A child-sized black shadow crouched there, front half protruding from under the car, face almost pressed to the pavement, 2 black holes where eyes should be, staring at her. She screamed, jumped onto the curb. When she looked again, nothing, just an oil stain. Another night, about to unlock her apartment door, she saw through the peephole's reflection a white human figure standing at the stairwell behind her. She whipped around. Nothing. Empty corridor. The worst was at a convenience store. Standing at the refrigerated section choosing milk, she glanced at the glass door's reflection. Standing behind her, separated only by the glass, was a girl in a school uniform. Wet black hair plastered to her face, water dripping steadily. Xiao Wen spun around. Nobody. Her life became a waking nightmare. She couldn't sleep, couldn't work, sat in her brightly lit apartment, wrapped in blankets, terrified of every dark corner. She told her best friend everything. The friend immediately took her to find masters. The first master said her yang fire was too low, gave her a talisman. No effect. The second said she was followed by something unclean, performed a ritual, made things worse. Now she could see them even in daylight. Finally, someone recommended Grandfather Li, a man in his 80s who never advertised and only saw people by introduction. He lived in an old courtyard house on the city outskirts. The moment Xiao Wen stepped through his door, Grandfather Li looked up sharply and said, "Girl, how long has your heavenly eye been open?" He sat her down and explained, "That female ghost, her resentment is extremely heavy. Suicide victims naturally carry heavier resentment than those who die naturally. When she died, her heart was full of unwillingness and the pain of being abandoned. These emotions condensed into dense resentment energy, occupying that hotel room. That night she saw her ex-boyfriend, through the boundary between yin and yang. Years had passed, and she still hadn't left that room. When she saw him, years of accumulated grief and resentment exploded. That burst of resentment energy shot out and struck your forehead, right here." He tapped the center of her brow, the position of your heavenly eye. That strike blasted open a crack. Right now, it's just a crack. What you see comes and goes, but if it's not sealed in time, it will open wider until it can't be shut at all. Then you'll see those things everywhere, and your life will never know peace. Xiao Wen broke down. 2 months of fear poured out in sobs. She grabbed his hand, begging him to close this eye. Grandfather Li gave her 3 talismans, one to carry always, one to paste above her bed, and one to bury at a crossroads at midnight. He also gave her a bag of glutinous rice to sprinkle at her doorstep. This heavenly eye was forcibly blasted open. It's not natural. With these protections, it will gradually close on its own. But you must do exactly as I say." She followed every instruction. That night at the crossroads she buried the talisman. She watched the disturbed soil gradually settle, and in that moment she felt it, as if an invisible door in the center of her brow was slowly, gently closing. Over the following days those things grew fainter, from blurry shadows to outlines, from outlines to nothing at all. 2 weeks later, she was standing at her window, looking at the night city, the streetlights, the occasional car, the ordinary peaceful night, and she realized she saw nothing. The heavenly eye had shut. As for the guy, she broke up with him, not because of his ex-girlfriend, who doesn't have a past. The problem was, every time she saw his face, she saw that blue-clad woman kneeling on the bed at dawn. Every time he held her hand, she thought of how that corpse had once been held by his hand too. Not jealousy, fear, bone-deep, involuntary, reflexive fear. They tried staying friends. They sat down for coffee. The entire time she watched his back, afraid that woman was standing right behind him. After finishing that cup, she knew, some experiences, once you've had them, you can never go back. That girl in the pale blue nightgown, she was also a pitiable person. She chose the most extreme way to leave this world. But afterward, she was trapped in that hotel room, day after day, year after year, waiting